What we're going to cover today is what storytelling is, why we should focus on storytelling, the different places where you can use storytelling across your different social media and web brands and all that sort of stuff. The ABT method, which is going to make it super simple. And what I'm going to do is actually get a couple of volunteers who are watching this live at the moment to join me as we put together your ABT method. And then we're going to look at how to build your own story as well. Let's keep going. So, what storytelling is in the context of business isn't nursery rhymes, it isn't limericks, the once was a girl from Nantucket and all that sort of thing. It's much more about understanding not just where you come from, but where your customers come from, and understanding that they will respond better to sales where there's features and benefits are not the main brand that you're trying to put across. Features and benefits are how we've always kind of looked at marketing, and we thought, well, if we can list all the features, someone will look at that and go, this car has this, and this. Oh my goodness, so many amazing things. Let's buy that car. Now, once upon a time, we could go from 2-cylinder to 4-cylinder to 6 to 8-cylinder. That might have been enough to get someone across the line. It might have even been enough if you said, well, this car has a bigger cup holder than that car. So when you go through Macca's and get the super size, you're going to be able to fit it in there. Or it might be that there's a refrigerated section to keep your drinks cold that's in the console of the car. I don't know who would have, maybe a Ford Ranger, I think the Ford Ranger Wild Track has that. That'd be amazing to have in my little Suzuki Swift, I'll tell you. The problem is, though, that as we've got along, we've started to just not believe in advertising. We've started to think that it's all full of crap because we kind of found that that was what happened. We were given all these lists of all these features that we might be included in something, and they all just became very, oh, actually, this is not a greater feature, and it's not as great as I thought it would be, or that feature may not have even existed in the product at all. So it's really, really, I know, just sad that we just don't trust advertising anymore. So as we became less trustworthy of advertising, we started to look at the benefits, and we're told, hey, focus on the benefits, that what's someone going to get out of it, rather than telling them they have all these features. Tell them what that actually means to them in their own language. So instead of saying that, you had like features such as a 2021 model having 3 inches more clearance underneath, we would go, then that's because you won't get that nasty scrape as you pull out of the driveway. The more clearance, you won't get the scrape. And everyone hates the scrape. It feels like fingernails down a chalkboard. The feature is the 3 inches of more clearance. The benefit then is that you won't get that nasty scrape as you pull out of the driveway. That was a massive difference in the way we did advertising and marketing. And then you might think of that as then, well, a high definition 72-inch OLED screen that's full of features and might have 3D, or it might have picture in picture, or all the many other features that a television set can have. But what does that mean to anyone? 72-inch OLED screen actually just means that you can sit back a bit further and not have to sit right up on top of the television to see the game. That's the benefit. The benefit is what the actual customer will experience because of that feature. So as we started to get through this and we realized that that was the case, we started to fill our ads and our social media posts through a lot of this. Now, instead of the camera having a magic eraser feature like my Google phone does, you can then remove that random dude with the Speedos from your holiday pics. So we go from what the fancy feature is to what it can actually do for you in your world. But we got a little bit too clever. As we started to get really clever with the different features and benefits, we didn't realize that what we were doing is we were confusing the issue. We were making it harder for people to choose what they actually wanted, and harder for people to understand what was in it for them. Because the reality is that I'm not going to go a lot of places where I'm going to be taking photos on beaches and needing to wipe out guys in Speedos from my holiday pics. I'm not going to sit back and watch the TV to watch the Super Bowl because I have zero interest in sport as it is, let alone some American sport. And also, I don't really need that nasty scrape as I pull out of the driveway because I live in an apartment block which has a very smooth way out of the driveway. So that doesn't appeal to me. And we realize, oh, okay, so the benefits aren't the same for everybody. Everybody has a different experience in life. Everyone has different needs in life. So how do we reach those people when there's so many different experiences of people driving out of driveways, or experiences of people buying televisions? We don't necessarily know that those things are going to fit everybody. So then we came up with this problem of having too many features and benefits in what we were advertising. And people started to not believe this. We didn't trust advertising anymore. We didn't even, know as business owners, how we were going to get noticed now, because it was getting harder and harder to be remembered for features and benefits. All of a sudden, the features and benefits, which once upon a time, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, where you could rattle off a long list of technical terms and impress people, wasn't impressing people anymore. It's hard to be remembered by a customer if they don't feel somehow related to the message you're trying to put across, or the 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 product you're trying to tell them about, or the service you're trying to say is just right for them. If they can't relate to it, they won't buy it. So there's been a move in marketing to stop talking about what our solution to the problems are and start talking about the customer's problems in the first place. We may think, oh yes, we've been around for 25 years, and we've been the best real estate agent in town, and 20 years, and sitting there going, well, I don't care, just sell my house. Now I want to know, why I should trust you to sell my house above everyone else. You've been around 25 years. That doesn't mean that you've been the only one in town for 25 years. Doesn't mean that you're great at it. I could go to someone in the next town and sell this house just as well. And so we stop talking about solutions and we start talking about and recognizing the kind of problems that our customers actually have. So if we go back to the TV, the problem may not be that they need a big TV and all sorts of backlit screens and whatever they use on televisions these days. I don't know. My TV is about 5 years old and still does just as well as it used to. But what we don't know is why a person may have a problem that may need that particular kind of TV. Are they vision impaired? Are they wanting something that's like a bigger television than what they currently have because they like to entertain a lot? Or are they simply people who like to watch blockbusters? Now, what if we could talk to those people in terms that they could understand, in terms that will make it easy for them to relate to why this particular television will be great for them? In recent years, and this is about probably 10 years ago now, where Donald Miller came up with this best-selling book called Building a Story Brand. It was all about clarifying your customer's message, clarifying what it's going to be what you do, who you do it for, and why they should care. And it comes up with the ultimate thing in a story brand is doing a brand script session with a certified brand professional with Story Brand. And they help you come up with what those words are, to what your story is and how to tell that, to answer the question of who are you, what do you do, who is it for, and why should I care about that? And it's a really good way of putting it together. And another guy called Park Howell came up with Brand Bewitchery, which looks at this in terms of certain words or phrasings. It's almost taking Donald Miller's stuff and applying it to how to write a social media post, or how to write a LinkedIn post, or how to write a blog, to make it really super specific. And it's really cool. These very, very average kind of blokes just came up with these things. And I thought they were brilliant as I've read them and gone, finally, someone's put some together, something that makes me believe in marketing again as a marketer. So how it works is that you take marketing for like this for Ironside Beard Oil and Balm. It's saying, oh, latest beard oil creation partner like Express. We have sold our first batch over the weekend, so made a fresh batch today. That's great. It's all about them. It's all about them just going, yeah, we made an oil and we sold our first batch over the weekend. So we made a fresh batch today. Could they even be more boring? The most boring social media posts you can ever imagine. Nothing for me to relate to as a bearded guy. They're just telling me they got a beard oil. I don't know. Is it any good? It's called Pineapple Express. What does that even mean? I don't know. And they've sold out their first batch over the weekend. Oh, that's great. So I can't get. Oh, but you made what a roller coaster ride to go through. You take marketing like that and turn it into something more like this, a bit of a story with Beard Brand. Combs are here and just in time for your summer of leisure. Maybe you think your beard won't know the difference between the office and the resort, but while you're sipping Mai Tais and doing non-stop cannonballs into the pool, your beard is taking a beating. Look, it's totally cool to let yourself relax while holidaying somewhere tropical, but for goodness sake, at least keep a pocket comb with you to clean the remnants of that seafood sampler out of your beard and mustache. That's a story. They've actually taken you right there. As me, as a proud owner of a beard, I'm hoping that most of you on this call judge me by your names. Are probably not beard owners, but as a proud owner of a beard, I can read that and relate to it. It's like, oh yeah, when I go to a resort, and I guess I really should take care of that and realize that like my hair, my beard, like hair on, well, don't really have a lot on my head, but if I had hair on my head, you take care of your hair, right? When you're going out and you're going into the ocean and you get sun bleached, you've got to make sure you replenish it with those vitamins and provitamin B5s or whatever the Pantene tells you need. All those things that make your hair remain good. You won't get this problem that I've got where suddenly it just doesn't really grow anymore. So that's storytelling to me connected. I imagine I'm not on a tropical holiday. I live in the tropics, so I don't really go on tropical holidays. But for me, I can relate to that. I can relate to, there's just days when my beard just isn't right. There's some days where things just aren't coming together. Now, imagine if that was the same story being told around a moisturizer that's going to protect you when you're out in the harsh sun, months where the sun can be very, very harsh. The UV index is often extreme, and it means that you're going to get burnt or somehow your skin will get damaged in some way before you even know it. Why do we do this? Why do we want to do this story, though? Why is it important to do the story? Well, apart from having this bearded chap light up because he saw an ad that finally actually speaks to him and his experience, we want to do this because we want deeper engagement with people rather than it's all about me. We want to make it all about our customer so that when they engage with our brand, they know that it's all about them. It makes sense to them. Even if they're not the one on the tropical holiday getting their beard taking a battering, they can still imagine it. They can still know that that's actually a thing that happens because they remember a time when their beard was really weird and itchy for a few days after they went for a surf because they didn't know that you're supposed to look after your beard like every other part of your body. It also gives us a reason and a context to use a specific product. If you're selling an essential oil, for instance, you need more than just, we sell essential oils and they smell and a context for it. Now, some of the MLM, the multi-level marketing organization, doTERRA does this very well. They paint stories and pictures and uses and scenarios around every single one of their oils. Their oils aren't just orange oil. Their oil is wild orange oil, and it's telling a story about how it's for revitalizing the spirit and waking you up in the morning on those days where you just can't seem to get momentum. This orange burst will seep into you and bring you to life. It really gets you around. It tells a story about what that particular oil is good for. So you can go, yeah, I get tired. I get those mornings where I need a bit of a burst. Maybe this orange oil could be good for me. It may be a ton of crap too. It may not do any of those things because it's just literally oil, orange flavor that's been infused into some kind of oil. But that's still bringing me in. I'm still someone who gets tired and could use a bit of an extra lift in the morning. It might just mean 2 teaspoons of Macona instead of one, but I could also get it out of this oil. And that sounds like a great story and it really appeals to me. It also solves a real world problem. Now, it's got to be a real problem. Now, in the case of the beard stuff, that's a real problem. Your beard can get really itchy and flaky. When I don't look after my beard properly, my skin gets flaky. It's like dandruff. I'm wearing a black t-shirt today. That's usually danger for me, but I've actually been using a beard oil because someone convinced me it'd be a great idea. And today I've had no dandruff coming out of my beard. Even when I play with it, I stroke it, I scratch it, there's no dandruff coming out. So it solves a very real world problem for me. In the case of the orange oil, that may solve a real world problem for you because let's face it, who doesn't have those mornings sometimes where they just don't feel great? They don't feel alive, they don't feel active and revitalized and ready to take on the day. Some of us just don't feel like that. So if an orange oil really addresses a real world problem I've got, maybe that's it. And a story can be funny. A story can be witty. A story can be hilarious. A story can be really, really entertaining. Whereas a list of features or even a list of benefits isn't particularly full of personality. It doesn't really grab you and make you go, wow, I think I might buy that. Or wow, I really want to know more about that because it's just so boring. So it can be funny, shocking, clever. It's never boring. A story is something which you can take and repeat to other people, and you can say, "Hey, I was on this webinar with this girl the other night. She was amazing. She had these incredible stories about what she's gone through on the way to growing her business." And that's a real thing. I watched a webinar just last night on a Sunday night, and it was all about a girl who had come through a whole lot of obstacles to become an entrepreneur and do really well in her life to the point where she's earning $20,000 a month and loving her life and doing the things of her dreams. And that would have been a boring story if I had just said, "Oh, all you need to do is just do this, 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 and this, and you too can have $20,000 a month." No, the story was much better. It drew me in. Now, there's no way I can do what she does because number one, I'm a guy, and what she does is actually very to win. But at the same time, It still is a story which impacts me, inspires me, makes me want to tell her story to other people like I've just done now. So as we move into the story, then we think, well, what else is there to it? How do we do it? Where do we use it? Where is it going to be in our business? Because we don't have time for coming up with stories every day as a small business owner and trying to tell these stories and getting stuck in the narrative. We don't even know what half of those things mean. But storytelling can apply to any brand, any product, any service there is, just if you use a bit of structure. And the structure could be for social media. Stories can be told on LinkedIn, they can be told on Instagram. Stories are told particularly well on TikTok, I've found, because you see stories which start off with 15 to 30 seconds of content which says, hey, subscribe to out, and they're creating a story, something that you want to see the next episode of, because they've shown you something that's really cool. It's like watching a series on television. Let's just say it was Downton Abbey. That's one of my guilty pleasures, is watching Downton Abbey, and they always leave you with a little bit of a cliffhanger at the end of it. There's always like a and then I realize I'm just really just watching a modernized version of Days of Our Lives or something like that, really. So, but it sucks me in, not because I want to have explained to me, what the actual Downton Abbey castle is called and where it's actually located, as opposed to where the show says it's located. And I don't need to know the facts and figures. I just love the story. I just love following the characters in that story. I want to see what's going to happen next because I'm invested in it. And stories are a funny thing. They get you invested. Stories can travel really well in emails. You've got a lot of room in emails to tell a story, but I don't say tell a story in such a way to avoid this truth or avoid what is really meant to be said, or avoid what the point of your email should be. A story helps to explain a situation or to help you, particularly in sales. If your email is about sales or trying to sell or upsell or get some interest in another product or service you got, email is one of the best places to do it because you've got time. Social media is like flick, 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 and you're out of there. An email, you can sit and simmer. Not many people are going to see your email, but let's face it, not many people are seeing our Facebook posts these days either. So if we get that story in there, it gives people a reason to watch a little bit more. Stories make great live presentations. I think when you think of a comedian, you don't necessarily think of the joke they told, but you may think of the story they told that led to that punchline. Great movies, great television shows, great speakers are excellent at telling a story. Simon Sinek, I don't like him at all. I think his content's crap, but he can tell a damn good story. And he's really good at that pregnant pause that makes you go, what's next? And him acknowledging an audience and looking around at different people in the room. He's very good at it. I'll tell you another person's great at, Brene Brown. She is one of the best I've ever seen. Oprah Winfrey, also incredibly powerful at telling stories that are not necessarily her own, but when she does tell her own story, you're on the edge of your seat because she has quite a story to tell. So live presentations are a great way to do that. But you think, aren't stories a little long-winded, especially in social media and emails where people are just getting in, getting out, all that, or maybe a television ad if you're going well enough to have one of those, or maybe a radio ad if you're doing one of those. Aren't stories a little long-winded to get that kind of result you're looking for? Well, this is where this ABT method comes in. The ABT method is a way of putting a structure in place that you can have a story or something like a story for any single product you want. Now, stories don't have to be spectacular. They don't have to be necessarily heartwarming or inspirational. Most of the stories you're going to tell are just going to be about a product. They're going to be about a widget that sits on a shelf in someone's house, or, it could be a set of headphones that you're trying to sell through your online store. It could be a car that you want to sell. It could be anything you like. But when you add a story, it makes a world of difference. It's an old Google phone of mine to some random off Facebook, and I got probably $50 more than the market value is for it. It's only worth probably about $100 now, or 150 for it, which is well above market value for that particular brand and that particular date of phone. What happened though is that I told a story about how this phone had been, through that phone actually went through two breakups, and the breakup text messages were received on that very phone. And I was getting messages on how amazing that ad was, and how honest and vulnerable it was, and how they have a lovely son who they could introduce me to, or a gay friend that they'd love to introduce me to, who'd love to make up for all those breakups I've had on the phone. It was hilarious. All I wanted to do was sell the phone. I felt like it was a time to actually put this storytelling in practice. And I used the ABT method. And the ABT method is simply about looking at the problem. So you look at the problem as one short, sharp statement, and then we connect and invite people to engage with the story. Now, what does that mean in human, real world stories? It would be, wait, we've gone past the ABT method. Now, ABT stands for and, but, therefore. And these are the turning points in a story, where you might think of a story being, a beginning, the obstacles to go over, and then the end. This is a bit more simple than that. It looks at the end being the first turn, the first twist in the story. The but being that, oh, but let me think. And then the therefore being a confirmation that the product or service is going to be right for that particular person. So the and is what your potential client or guest or customer wants and why it's important to them. So not just what they want, but why it's important to them. So example might be, I understand you and what's at stake in your life and business. This is what you're essentially saying to them in that story. I understand what you're going through and I get what's at stake in your life and business. So that would play out in the real world as something like, oh, this is it. This is something that does it really, really badly. Infomercials do it badly, but they also do it kind of right. I'll just play this back. It's only a very short video. The worst before and after infomercial acting. Hopefully this will come through.
Like, you won't find the remote. When you're running late and you can't find your keys, and the TV remote has vanished in the breeze, does the shoulder strap of your car cut into your shoulder? Is your shoulder strap too tight and annoying?
If you think a clean windshield is too much of a stretch, if you think a clean windshield is just out of reach,
Millions of women like yourself suffer from a poor night's rest. Sleeping on your side without proper breast support can be a major culprit.
Tired of wrestling around with an ironing board and a big bulky iron?
stop with the old-fashioned tedious peeling. Stop with the painful steps and look at all the waste.
So what they're trying to do here is paint a picture of the things that you as the everyday woman or man will go through in your life that's a problem, an annoyance. The problem is that none of those things are really that much of a problem or annoyance. I don't know what it's like to sleep with a pair of breasts because I don't have them, but I imagine that there are ways around this that we all work about. Like, for instance, I have a boomerang pillow, which kind of holds my neck in the right position. I don't need a special pillow from an infomercial. Or it could be that maybe this is something where we just go, well, maybe these problems are manufactured problems, like where did I park my car? And then she's got this special beeper that lets her know where she parked her car. Although these days we could probably just use something like, I don't know, like our phones, for instance, could tell us where that is, or an app on our phones could do us. What they don't do in infomercials is give us a real problem that's happening to real people in the real world. And this is why we've got so far from trusting advertising in our world. We don't have these things presented to us as real problems happening to very real people like you and I in the real world that we live in. So what we get left with is those infomercials. So let's say, for instance, we're going to start off our story with someone who just wants to make more money. They want to make more money. You want to make more money and finally quit that job you hate. So they want to make more money, but we're going to up the stakes and go, yeah, you want to make more money, but you also want to quit that job you hate. That's the beginning of our story. So I think, yeah, okay, I can relate to that. I'm someone who wants to make more money. I love my job, so I'm not really the right person. But just say, I've had times in my life where I've hated my job. I can relate to this. I really can. So you want to make more money and finally quit that job you hate. That's when you get to the but. So this is where we say, okay, we get that that's what you want to do and the reasons why. Now we want to say, well, here's what's important to you, but it's not happening. So it's like the money thing just doesn't seem to be occurring. So the but is you recognizing that they don't have it, why they don't have it, what's stopping them from moving forward, and the obstacle they want to overcome. And this comes from Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. It's to do with the hero showing up. You have empathy for the hero because they're usually an orphan or somewhere that's gone through hardship, and now they're hitting an obstacle that's stopping them from getting to the place of their dream, that's stopping them from winning the day. Every superhero movie starts out like this. Superman orphaned from planet Krypton, Wonder Woman separated from her life with the Amazons and in that magical mystical place she came from. Batman being orphaned as a youngster but being hopelessly rich and raised by the butler. So there's always an empathy story in behind it. So in this case, we'd look at, okay, we want to make more money and finally quit that job you hate, but you don't know where to start. So we're up the stakes, and then we've actually brought it back to like, here's the problem. Here's what you want to get over. The fact that you want to make more money and you want to finally quit the job you hate has got you a little bit hopeful that you can do it. But then, but you don't know where to start. So I don't know where to go from here. So that's when we hit the therefore, the T of the ABT. The T is saying there's an obstacle in front of you. Therefore, you need to do this thing to get over that obstacle. So you're helping them to win the day by telling them what it is they need to do to get through that obstacle. So in our money guy, we're looking at what is the tool or the answer or the solution that you're selling, that you're presenting, or that you're somehow bringing into someone's life that will help them to overcome that obstacle. So that obstacle then can be presented as, you want to make more money and finally quit that job you hate. We get it. Stakes are raised, but you don't know where to start. Therefore, you need this webinar to learn how. That's telling a story. Now, you may think, well, it doesn't sound like a great story to me, but it's still infinitely better than what most people are writing in their social media. You want to make more money and finally quit that job you hate, but you don't know where to start. So therefore, you need this webinar to learn the tricks in the trade that will help you to, yes, make more money. Yes, quit that job you hate. And yes, it's easy to start. So let's get underway. So the story then becomes far more convincing. I just sounded like a radio ad or a TV ad myself then, or a TikToker or an Instagrammer explaining how, their course is going to change your life. But that's what it all comes down to. It's the ability to be able to not just present a bunch of things that are really good about your product or service and a bunch of reasons why someone might use it. Rather than go for that, go for the jugular, go straight for the reasons why people need that. They may want to make more money. They may want to quit the job they hate. But if they don't know where to start, how great that you have the solution to what their problem is. You have the ability to help them through it. So the formula then becomes, you want something, and here's why it's important, but there's a problem. Therefore, you have to get what by how. So if that doesn't make, that might be a screenshotable one for you. You want something and it's important, but there's a problem. Therefore, you have to get this thing by this method. And this is the core to the story. So in the case of one of my businesses, Clickstarter, you want to spend less time on social media and more time on growing your business, but the social media has to be done. Therefore, you have to get a social media method that works by watching this webinar. Now, you don't have to use and button, therefore. You can use anything that's similar to those. So I could just say, you want to spend less time working on your social media and you want to spend more time growing your business, yet the social media still needs to be done and there's no one around the corner doing it for you. So why don't you take a part on this social media webinar that can help you to cut through all that? Watching this webinar could change your life and give you back hours of your time. Now, that's telling a story as well. That's telling it in a much more smooth way that doesn't necessarily have and button therefore. They're just there as a guide for you. So I might say the similar thing with my Cellular One business. You want to spend less on your mobile phone plan and get more data than you have now, but you don't have time to be hunting everywhere for a deal. Therefore, you need someone to find the best deal for you and get you connected fast. And that's the whole purpose of my mobile phone service and NBN service with a guide to find the right thing for you. So I could easily say that the same way. You want to spend less money, less on your phone plan. You want more data than you've got now because, the kids keep using the data. You need to plug in the hotspots everywhere you go to work because you don't trust Macca's Wi-Fi. You don't really have all the time you need to go hunting for a deal because, let's face it, you're a mum, you've got kids, you've got things to do, and you work full-time on a business. So you need someone who's going to find that best deal for you, knowing what you're looking for and connecting you with the right thing and getting it done quickly. So it's no hassles, none of this looking around and getting on the phone and asking people in call centers to badger you for the rest of their lives. You've got a story. Everyone can relate to that. Everyone who's a mum who's busy, who's working full-time in a business or full-time and then part-time in a business as well, can relate to that because that's a story that's a story of their life. So when you tell a story, that's particularly one that's geared towards the kind of person you're trying to reach, then it makes sense. Most of my stories do aim towards women who are too busy and need help getting things done. And that's who happens to be the majority of my customers. So those stories really do cut through. They're not just me saying, hey, get the best mobile deal in town and you get tons of data. It's like, well, that doesn't solve my problem. The best mobile deal in town, I didn't ask for that. I'd like to spend less, but it doesn't have to be the least. I still want a good service. I still want data, but I don't want to be on this crappy network that I can't get because I get, more than 10 kilometers out of town and no one can reach me. So it's stuff that understands where my life is at. That's where the story comes from. That's where you start to connect with, that's what this is all about. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to ask for some volunteers. So all I need you to do is just in the chat window, say what your business is and what you do. So if you sell used cars, say I sell used cars, or I connect people with their passions and help them to achieve their dreams, anything like that. And what we're going to do is help to build that story around it. And I'm usually pretty quick with these. I don't get stuck on too many of them. I've got bridal veils, hair accessories, virtual assistant and bookkeeper. Thanks, Gail. Good to see you again. Leanne's on as well. I've seen you come in early as well. And policy professional development from Sally, who I know from LinkedIn as well. Thank you for joining us, Sally. So there's a few ideas we've got here and keep bringing them on because we'll have time to be able to explore what these are. So I'm going to start off with the bridal veils and hair accessories. So I'm going to go back to the formula. So the formula is you want something and it's very important to you, but you've got a problem getting to it. Therefore, you have to get this thing by how. So I'd say with bridal veils and hair accessories, you want the wedding of your dreams. And it's important because everybody's watching. But getting something in this part of town and this place where we live is going to be a big, big problem because of all these problems of getting, logistics and transportation and who can trust the internet anymore these days because it turns up and it's only 2 weeks before the wedding and it doesn't fit. So to get that, I've set up a place where it's an online store where you can try on veils, you can try on different things that allow you to be much better at this, to allow you to be much better at having the veil and accessories for your wedding that you want. You want a perfect wedding day and no one's watching, but you can't get all the things you want. Well, there, I can connect you at least with these things that can make it happen. And you can do it online. It's nice and hassle-free. You don't have to talk to someone the whole time. You can just get it done. So therefore, you see a little bit more of a story built around it. For we have the virtual assistant and bookkeeper, which is Gail. So for Gail, we look at it and go, you want to get your finances in order. And it's important because, tax, hello, you can end up in the trouble that I'm in with the tax department at the moment. But who has the time? No one has the time to go and learn how to do bookkeeping and install Xero and get it working or MyOb or whatever you're using. Therefore, the solution is someone who can do this for you, but who you don't have to pay for a full-time job. You don't have to hire someone full-time. They can help you because they're the chief financial officer for 13 other businesses and helping them to get their stuff together. So it's way cheaper. So you want great bookkeeping and you understand completely that it's important because it keeps you out of tax trouble, but you don't have the time to learn it yourself. Therefore, there's now an option. You can get a bookkeeper who will help you out every week and every month to get everything you need together by simply using a virtual bookkeeper or a virtual assistant who can make is our policy professional development. I would say that you want the resources in your team who can help you to write policy and write that policy in a way that's compliant, professional, and able to be put together. And you know it's important because when policy isn't defined, it's like the lunatics running the asylum. Everything can go wrong when you don't have policies laid down. So therefore, what you need to get is somebody who's a professional at this, who can cut the time down to get this stuff done. So you get the policies you need without having to necessarily go during this time of the Great Resignation and get all sorts of people from God knows where to work on it, who you cannot really test whether they're great at policy, when you've got someone right here who's a proven policy professional. So it's just that storytelling just makes all of a sudden all these people are very, very useful. All these things you might be sitting there just going, am I kidding myself? Can I build a business out of this? Can I really build a business out of this? It feels a little bit like half the time it's just that we don't know how to tell the story about what we do. So it appeals to the person that we need. In the case of, we've got a few more here. So we've got Tracy, who helps women with their health and well-being. This is a great one, Tracy. You want a healthier life. And it's important because, you don't want to be old and crotchety when your kids are just hitting high school. But you don't have the time, you're eating wrong, you've got tons and tons of bad habits. And let's face it, there's so many other important things you have to do. You'd rather keep your kids healthy than keep yourself healthy, right? Therefore, what you need is someone who's going to coach you through this, who understands that it's not just going to be a case of take this pill or follow this routine. They'll actually help you hold your hands side by side and take you through the process of changing your mind so you can change the rest of this stuff as well, change your body as well. So that's telling the story of going, yes, I understand that you're busy. I understand that there's nothing, but I know that you also understand how important this is. So I've got a solution for you. What you need to do is get this by simply signing up on my website. And that's the call to action on the end. So if anyone's looking for a call to action, that's how you have the call to action. It's right in the end. So therefore you have to get this by how. So in the case of Tracy, it could be by watching my webinar and or by filling out this form, or by giving me booking a time with me for a consultation for our online bridal store. For Leanne, it could be going to my website and actually looking through to see what you're looking for. Or if you want something specific that's custom, maybe you can get in touch with me through this form. The call to action at the end helps them to know where to go. So you're not just saying, yes, I understand you. Yes, I empathize with you. You're also saying, oh yeah, I've got the solution and here's where to get it. Now, it's not just saying, I know the solution. It's saying, here's exactly how you get it. I'm the person who can solve your problem. You just got to fill in the form, or book in the appointment, or give me a call or something like that. In Jeff's case, where he does a lot of solar stuff, so he reduces electricity costs. One of the big areas of solar stuff in the Northern Territory, good fella. I think, if I'm not wrong, also working in an outback roadhouse at the moment too. He just took that on, the massive project. So in the case of Jeff, it would be reducing electricity costs. You want a lower power bill, and that's important because every year it just keeps going up and up and up and up and up. And everyone else in the street's got solar. But the problem is that you wouldn't even know where to begin with all this. They're talking about gigahertzes and wattages and, oh my goodness. And then you've got all these other people like writing in the newspaper telling you all about how it's a bad idea and they're going to turn it off, and there's the feed-in tariff. I don't even know what that is, but it's something to do with how much I get paid or not get paid, or do I pay someone for that? Who pays who? You don't know where to go. So therefore, you have to get someone who knows all the different deals and all the different processes, who can talk to you in plain English. And you can do that by just simply booking in a call with me, and we'll be able to have a chat about it. Or if not, jump on the phone now. If it's really urgent, jump on the phone and call him. He's a good guy. He'll probably drop everything if he's not being a tool at the time, or guiding someone, a customer through the outback roadhouse. He'll be able to talk you through that stuff and let you know how it all works. So that's a story. That's a long, drawn out story. But for a social media thing, it can be, you want lower power costs, and you want to help save the planet. But going to solar seems complicated and confusing. So what you have to get is a guide who knows how to talk you through it. And you can do that by simply phoning Jeff on 04 blah, 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 blah. And that's a short social media post that tells a story. It presents the problem, lets someone know that you understand how important that problem is, and there you go. So there's tons and tons of different ideas we can come to. Paul writes up the big projects. Probably need to be a bit more specific than that, but it could be, writing up the the tenders. It could be writing up the technical documentation for the big projects, whatever it is. I know Paul's a writer, so it may be that you want to be able to win. I'm not going to go down that path. Let's go down the path of an annual report. So your association needs an annual report to be compliant with all the rules and regulations that go on, and it's so important because if you don't do it, you can actually be shut down. But nobody on the committee knows how to do all this sort of stuff. No one understands any of this stuff. So it's a really good idea to get someone from outside who writes these all the time, knows exactly what needs to be in them. So you get hold of Paul, and you do it by simply going to his website or going to his social media and reaching out and messaging and saying, hey, Paul, I need help with this. And I'm on 3 different committees, and we use outsiders to help with our auditing all the time and our reports all the time because it's hard and we're all business owners and we're all busy and we don't have time to do it ourselves. So we get people like Paul to do that sort of stuff for us. So that's how you tell a story. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be knights in white armor. I don't know, white armor, silver armor, trying to rescue the maiden in distress from the giant tower. It's not a fairy tale. It's not something complicated. Just quite simply saying that, well, you know what that person wants, you know what that customer wants, and you know why it's important to them, and you understand what the problem is that's stopping them from getting that thing. So then here's the solution and how you can actually get it. Not just here's the solution, but here's how you can get it. Point them to somewhere to go, because we're just a bunch of very, very clever monkeys. We need to be told what to do. You can see that in crowds and in stadiums and in protests. If you don't sort of tell people where the line is and where they're supposed to go, that just descends into chaos. So if you've got the rules in place and you've got the directions you can give people, that story becomes really, really simple. We could say that, let's throw another one in there, a plumber, something as simple as a plumber, nothing simple about what they do, but we know them so well. So you want your plumbing job done right the first time. You don't want the pipe to be bursting again in a month's time. And that's important because it takes a lot to get to some of these pipes. You have to knock in tiles, you have to dig holes, you have to get through concrete. It can be a real headache. You don't want to do that twice. But how do you know who to trust? Well, what you probably need is to go to a plumber who's, number 1, certified, number 2, has a track record of this, has really good reviews all over Facebook and all over Google, so you can tell they're doing a good job. So go and check them out now at their Facebook page at Nightcliff Plumbing and Gas, and you can go and see how they work and how they do so well at what they do. So every single kind of business can do it. A cake shop, they tell a great story. So you want the perfect personalized cake that's going to be connected to your special day, your anniversary, right? And that's pretty important because this is your 20th anniversary. It's one of those really important ones. It's not like the 17th. This is the 20th. So the problem is, though, that all the cakes you see are just like in the cake shops and Coles and Woolies. They just don't really quite do it for you. You want something custom. Therefore, you need someone who makes cakes as a living, specialty cakes, not just mass-produced cakes that go out on the shelf at Coles. We want someone who does special cakes that are something that's significant to you in the shape or the design or something that's significant to you. So you can find that by going to this particular cake website and telling us what you'd love to achieve, and we'll come back and let you know if that's something we can do. That's a story too. And it's so much nicer than we sell cakes. We make them for all occasions. We're the best cake shop in town. Come and buy our cakes. It sounds a little bit more exciting, doesn't it? So I'm hoping that you were able to get something out of this. I know I was really late getting onto this, and some of you may have got into this late too. Don't worry, we've recorded it and you'll all be sent this recording as well. We'll be putting this on YouTube in the next 24 hours, both on my channel and the YouTube Business Station channel. So you'll be able to have another read of this, but take that screenshot of this particular screen, that you want what and why it's important, and then refer back to that to write the little stories you're going to put in there. You'll probably notice, if you saw my post on LinkedIn and that's how you came to find this, you may have noticed that's how I wrote that post. It was a little bit lengthy, but it sort of did the job. I didn't have anyone booked in for this, and then now I've got a full house. So it seemed to work somehow.